All right, everyone, here we are with ticker symbol OCGN, Ocugen Inc. And before we jump into this chart, I want to say welcome to all the first-time viewers and investors. Welcome to the channel, Invest for Tomorrow. To all the subscribers, welcome back. And as we dive into this chart, I already talked about the chart analysis on this one, but I want to go ahead and reiterate it, and I want to add some news here because a lot of investors are feeling a little bit bummed out or kind of unsure, and uncertainty is kicking in, and that fear of this stock falling this much, right? Everyone was excited on the way up, but on this downward trend, a lot of people are feeling a little different. So I really want to see the investor sentiment down below on the bulls, on the bears, and the overall unbiased investor that wants to go ahead and just share their input down below. Now, I'm here to share with you guys my thought process and reasoning here on what's going on, but this type of pullback was bound to happen without an offering. Now, I don't think it would have been this significant, but there's still room here for this to go lower due to some reasons, and I'm going to share it with you guys in just a moment. Now, the offering doesn't end till tomorrow, and this is where it gets a little bit like, okay, how close are we going to get to that number per share? And the offering is basically to get approximately gross proceeds of 23 million right here, okay? And Ocugen focuses big time on blindness disease. Anything that has to do with blindness, looking for the cure, the therapies, that's what they've really focused on, right? And the gene therapies for blindness disease. Now, they are also developing a vaccine to fight the COVID-19, but it says here developing, they're working alongside with the developer, which is the one that created Covaxin. Or who knows, Ocugen might try to be the US market distributor of Covaxin, or will try to get some type of partnership or contract where they can create the Covaxin US market Ocugen version of that type of cocktail here in the US. So there's different ways that Ocugen can go about this. So the fact that it says developing a vaccine to fight COVID-19 here on this publication through the nasdaq.com, I found that interesting. So now it made me start thinking, well, could Ocugen make their own cocktail or figure out a way to mimic Covaxin but under a contract with the Covaxin creator? So some of those benefits or revenue will go back to that creator, not all for Ocugen. It's not like Ocugen is stealing it. It's a partnership, right? So very interesting to start thinking outside the box on that end of things. So they are going to issue about 3 million shares to get 23 million. Now, they are doing it at a price of $7.65 per share. Today's the 9th, and the offering is expected to close on the 10th. So is there more room for this to go lower? Possibly. So I would really pay close attention to this support and the support I talked about in the previous videos and in today's video, 816. Super important point because that's a pretty low number. I'm not sure if we're going to get close to that number, but look who's actually in agreement, right? A definitive agreement, as it states here, with the whole process of this offering. And this is institutional investors. Institutional investors. So that means that this offering, institutional investors have agreed to it to allow the stock to do this in the company for grabbing that gross proceeds for innovation, production, research, and so forth. And I believe that if institutional investors were in agreement with this, they're buying some of these shares as it's going down. And you need to keep in mind that if institutional investors are all for it, if this was to go back to $7, they already saw this potential. They're looking way beyond what we see right now in the chart. Like, let's just kind of leave this last part here. If it was to just dip, they're looking way beyond. Like, we're talking way, way beyond what we can see here in this whole entire process, right? That's the whole point of these offerings, for the company to receive some gross proceeds to then use it for further expansion and innovation. I mean, that's what we all hope for as investors. But if institutional investors are involved and they're buying these shares at these prices or taking the opportunity to buy as it's going down, then I can see that if they're jumping in on this, they are taking a shot and a risk here that they believe this can go way beyond 765 per share, right? And even if it doesn't get close to that number, it's going to hit a lower number than where it was at. And these institutional investors are loading up on shares because they see beyond what the chart is showing right now, which is what I find very interesting for Ocugen right now. And I know a lot of investors are feeling a little bit uncertainty, with the uncertainty and uncertain moving forward. And I completely understand. But if you're truly long on this one and you believe in it, this could be opportunity. And if you haven't had a chance to get into Ocugen Inc., this could be an opportunity as well. But we need to see, because Ocugen Inc. still hasn't gotten the FDA approval. And that's probably one of the biggest things I want every single investor to be aware of. They are the U.S. market distributor in partnership with Borat, the one that created Covaxin. But we have a big step to move forward to officially be the U.S. market distributor within the U.S. market. So that's something I want every single investor to be aware of. I wanted to talk about the offering just to give you guys some insight, but it's really interesting to me that there's institutional investors, involved in this. If anyone can go ahead and pull up who was kind of, working with this, I would really appreciate you guys to share it. Usually you can find it in the SEC files. If you guys see anybody, like any banks, major banks and stuff involved, right, which are the institutional investors, or any healthcare focused institutional investors, right, it's going to be interesting because you'll see some important reputable institutions in there that can give you the idea of, if they're willing to buy at these prices and they went ahead and went with this offering, it's because there's an opportunity here that they see it going beyond those numbers. And it's pulling down the stock a lot. We need to see how much further it pulls down. But remember, the offering ends tomorrow. After tomorrow, we need to watch carefully how this ends the week and even starts next week. So I want every single investor to pay close attention to the numbers. So here we are. 11.19 is our support. If that gets broken through, watch carefully between 11.19 and 8.16. And the resistance level is 14.57. The 50-day moving average is 12.76. As long as we're below it, we're in bearish territory. The moment we're above it, we're in bullish territory. So for the bulls to work their way back up, they definitely need to break through this resistance level. And if it breaks through this support, watch carefully how it reacts between 11.19 and 8.16. As always, if you found this video helpful and informative, please do so and subscribe. Don't forget to click on the bell to turn on all notifications and not miss a single video that I post. Share this with your friends and community, and don't forget to hit the like button to let me know you watched this video. Stay tuned till the end because I have a ticker symbol you won't want to miss, and you definitely want to add it to your watch list. So for everyone that has stayed to this point in the video, the ticker symbol I'm about to share with you guys is a reiteration of the previous stock graphs and also where the stock was and where it's at now. So I think this is the second time I talk about this one in less than a month, and I really want every single investor and viewer to be aware of this one, especially the new coming investors and subscribers. I don't want you guys to miss this one. And for every single subscriber that missed it in the previous videos, if you're having the chance to watch it now, I really want you guys to be aware of this company and do your due diligence and do your research and further digging to understand this ticker symbol and the potential moving forward. So the ticker symbol is CLNE, right? So let's go ahead and pick it up here. Let's see if it pops up. Clean Energy Fuels Corporation. Now, in less than a month, it has actually risen, right? From about $10 all the way up to highs here of almost $19. That's almost 100% gain. But let's just go ahead and say it from $10, right? Forget about the $10.45. We talked about it before that. We talked about it right here at $10.998. So $10 to $18.70, that's 87% gain. Okay? And there's so much more room still for this stock. This stock has been growing exponentially over time. I know that when you look at it, you're like, oh, well, there's going to be a point where this is going to drop. Well, we went through one of the massive drops right here after it took off where I was talking about it. This was the first time I went ahead and mentioned it, January 22nd. And I said, okay, we might see it cool off and go a little bit lower. We want to look for some consolidation, and then it can start to hit newer highs. Well, it took off after that, soon after, and it hit 12, came back down to 10, and a lot of investors already saw 12, and they said, okay, 12 is possible. So now we need to get to 12, and we need a breakthrough 12. Well, that certainly happened. It brought itself right back up, slightly above it, brought itself back down to 12, and now it took off to 18. So the question is, could this go ahead and consolidate up here? Could we see this pull back somewhere in the middle of this? That's totally possible and healthy for the way the chart has been acting to this point. I want every single investor to be aware of all these consolidation periods and runs up. These are very healthy signs of a growing stock, okay? So it's clearly showing that. Now you have to do your due diligence and research, because now we're talking about it again at its highest point. We've talked about it at one of its highest points here when it was at 10, and it had recently hit 12, 11 and some change. So it was still showing signs that there could be some room, and analysis ratings were also looking pretty good. So now we've hit new highs. So analysis ratings need to be reiterated and upgraded. And then we also need to see for consolidation or a pullback, but obviously not coming back down to 12, somewhere in the middle. And if it does come back to 12, may it consolidate in 12, and then from there on out, hit newer highs and new resistance levels for this stock to continue this exponential growth. But the potential here going into the year and the coming years is phenomenal, and there's so much room here for this to continue. But from January 22nd till now, 87% growth is pretty phenomenal and interesting to me. So I wanted to go ahead and ask those of you that have found out about this since the first time I talked about it to this point, how have you felt about the graph? Did you add this to your watch list? Have you kept it on your radar? Did you add it to your watch list but disregarded it? All right, I want to ask these questions to you guys. All the viewers coming across this for the first time, I would encourage you to go ahead and do your due diligence and research. And just by looking at the graph, how does it make you feel? Do you see that this can continue to run? Do you see a pullback and consolidation? But the way it's been acting, do you think that this can repeat itself, right? But onto newer highs, like beyond this. So like if we were able to copy and paste this, but starting off at 18, can you see this type of distance and growth getting attached here beyond the next coming months and also year? So I wanted to ask that question to you guys, because that's what you really need to think about when you look at a graph, right? What is it acting like before? And could it repeat that same process moving forward to newer highs and new resistance levels? Obviously, the volatility of the stock market is always going to exist. There's been up and downs throughout this whole process. But if it can continue doing that behavior, there's room here for this to continue to probably 2x from where it is now, because we've almost 2x from where we talked about it in just weeks, and it's actually gone ahead in 9x, right? Almost 10x from way down here, these lows in November. So very interesting stuff. I wanted to ask that to all you guys that are watching, every single investor and viewer. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and let's make some money.